Cadillac has just unveiled the 2025 Cadillac Optiq. So now we have the Optiq, the Celestiq, the Lyriq. Very fancy names for new Cadillacs these days. This is a full EV and I do think the styling looks great. One of the best looking SUV EVs on the market today. What we're going to do in this video is, of course, we need to talk about this design. What is Cadillac doing here, specifically with the taillights? Very interesting design for the taillights. We're going to have a look at the front, side, and rear, and also this interior, which has some very cool features in it. And I do think you know what I mean by that when I say we're moving backwards a little bit when it comes to tech. So before we jump into Photoshop, let's have a look at this article from Car and Driver, linked down below in the description. 2025 Cadillac Optiq or Optiq EV nails the compact luxury SUV formula. Dual motors all-wheel drive is standard, and the sole powertrain churns out a combined 300 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. The wheelbase is 6 inches shorter than the Lyriq, but you still have the 85 kilowatt-hour battery pack. And Cadillac says that with the 20-inch wheels, I do think the standards are 20-inch wheels, you're going to get about 300 miles of range. If you bump it up to the 21-inch, that goes down to about 285 miles of range. And if you know me, I'm definitely gonna go with the 21 inches because it looks so much better. It goes on sale and this fall at an estimated starting price of $54,000. Notably raked windshield, and you also have a low short hood and the optional 21-inch wheels. And tire package 20s are, as I said, standard. Now, Cadillac did a negative camber built into the front daytime running lights and rear taillight signature, and this gives it this planted look visually. And these are some key things that you can do, play around with graphics to make the car look planted. And I think Cadillac nailed this design when it comes to plantedness. Maybe want to have a little bit some spacers here for this wheel. It feels like the rear wheel sits very far into the body. So you have efficient front drive operation when you're just cruising around, but when you're stepping on it, the rear motor is going to pop in and give you that 300 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque. The latter translates to 480 newton meters of torque, which explains the 480 badging the Optiq will likely wear. Now they say 300 miles of range here, but then you have the all-wheel drive Chevy Equinox EV, a less expensive Chevy version, basically the same car underneath, is rated at 285 miles despite having a derated version of the same powertrain. And this is the reason where wheel and tire size come in. So if you go with the base 245 20s, that is when you're going to get the full 300 miles of range. But if you go with so you have 245s, the 21s come with 275, so a substantial width increase, which obviously going to look better. It's just science. That is going to drop it down to 285 miles of range, which is still decent if that is actually the real world number. All Optiqs will come with a dual level charge cord, so you can charge it with either 110 volts, which is going to take you about 2 months to get a full charge, or if you want to bump it up a little bit, 240 volt. Obviously 2 months is a bit of an exaggeration. You have a curved 33-inch screen in the interior that blends both the instrument panel and the infotainment screen. However, the cool thing here is that the Optiq retains a full complement of physical controls in forms of steering wheel buttons, stalks, and door-mounted controls. The climate control settings are also off-screen, which is great. This is what I want to see more car companies do. Go back to, of course, I've said it 10,000 times before. Just go back to some physical, a couple of physical buttons in the interior. All Optiqs come with a panoramic glass roof that spans from edge to edge. There will be 2 different trim levels, or 2 grades here. You have the base model, the Optiq 1, and then you have the upgraded model called Optiq 2. There is no real specific confirmed details of what the differences are here. Some of the details are you have heated and ventilated front seats and heated rear ones in the upgraded Optiq 2, while the base grade only have heated front seats. Both grades will come standard with the 20-inch wheels, and you got the 21-inch as an option. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here. I love this color, by the way. Looks a little bit more interesting than just having a boring gray color, even though the gray actually, I have to say, looks great, because gray brings out the design flow of the design. So looking at this design here, very Cadillac-y. There's no way you're gonna look at this and think this is anything else than a Cadillac, because we have this huge, absolutely massive daytime run light in the front end, which is a Cadillac signature to have this big blade of LED in the front, an array of LED headlight unit right here next to it. And I would call this a bumper headlight, because you can see it sits below, the headlight goes below the center point of the front end, and that is how my personal scientific definition of bumper headlights. Love all the chamfers that we have here. Look at this chamfer here. We have a nice, beautiful chamfer right in this area, another chamfer going down low here, and we also have another piece of daytime run light up here. So when you see this at night, there's no mistaking this for anything else than a Cadillac, and I do think Cadillac is currently nailing their designs. It just looks so sharp and so stately at the same time, but at the same time, it feels like the designers also have a lot of fun designing Cadillacs these days. Very small main grille in the front, which is what you don't need a bigger grille than this, because this is, as you know, an EV. The main cooling happens down low for the battery, so this further down is where we need the big vent for EVs, and that happens pretty much for every single EV, having a bigger grille at the lower section than what we have in what we're used to seeing for the internal combustion to breathe up top. Now, looking at the side view here, you can sort of see that this is an EV based on the proportions, and what I mean by that is it sort of still looks like you could fit maybe a 4-cylinder under here, but if you look at how short the hood is here and where the A-pillar starts, that is to me the giveaway for this being an EV. Even though the proportions and the wheelbase, it doesn't have this weird wheelbase like we have in the Ioniq 5, for example, where the rear wheels sit all the way out here and then creates very strange looking proportions. Something looks off. You just want to move the rear axle forward by a couple of inches. But this car does not have that problem. We have some nice line flow here at the bottom, carving out some of this volume in the lower section by this black graphics. Obviously, we need to have some black plastic around the wheels as well, because this is going to be sold in the US, meaning that we need to have it visually look like some sort of off-road vehicle. I do like that we have the black roof here, because again, this does the same thing as it does in the lower section down here, is that it carves out some of this volume. It doesn't make it look more athletic. I also like the D-pillar, or in this case, A-B C-pillar treatment the Cadillac is doing. Just look at how wide this C-pillar is, and you also have some styling graphic features inside of this wheel. These are most likely, since these are the press photos for the car, these are most likely the 21-inch wheels, and I do like the design of them. Thankfully, not everybody puts black wheels on their cars. This feels more like maybe gunmetal design, which looks very clean. Love the line flow that we have in the center here as well. A clean shoulder line going from the corner of the taillight, and let's see if it goes into the, yes, it does. It goes into the corner of the headlight right here as well, with this very organic almost looking, from a side view at least, front end light graphic. Now looking at the rear end, I want you to imagine if we don't have these lights here. So let's cover these lights up real quick. And let me show you what this could look like if we just had, you know, the lower section of the taillights. It looks pretty cool like this as well, just to have two basic taillights in the rear end. But of course, Cadillac needs to go a little crazier than that to make this stand out. And I do like what they did here with the graphics. Look at this swooping line that we have for the roof line. It's a beautiful looking roof line because it dips down very clearly in the rear end. It goes into this small spoiler up top with these, again, LEDs, bars that is typical for Cadillac, and with these sort of styling inside of the LED, looking great. And this is the camber that we have. So these are pointing outwards, both of these lights, planting this car nicely. I also like the taillight. The main taillight here feels huge, fits the rear end great. We also have a bunch of different chamfers in the rear like we have in the front end as well. A nice beautiful chamfer down here at the bottom. No exhaust pipes on this. Would be cool to see quad tailpipes on this, because again, it sort of looks like it could house an internal combustion engine in this car. But this black graphic coming back from the side and also from the front end right here. So we have a nice flow with the black graphic all the way from the side and then coming into the rear diffuser as well. Again, carving out some more of this volume all around the car in addition to the top part, which is also black. Now looking at the interior here, last but not least, look at this. This is absolutely stunning. Look at all the beautiful buttons, physical toggles and buttons that we have here for the climate control settings. This is not, it doesn't intrude on the overall interior design. It just looks better and it functions a lot better than having to go in to this 33-inch TV, widescreen TV that we have here and fiddle around with the climate control settings inside of the software. This is such a better design solution in my opinion. In addition to that, we also have a bunch of buttons here on the steering wheel. As you can see, beautiful looking steering wheel. It looks like it's supposed to be a two-spoke by just having these lines here, but then they decided let's bring a little sportiness into this and let's put a third spoke here, again with some nice chamfers here like we have on the exterior design. And I mean, Cadillac overall, they've always had this very beautiful looking interiors, and I do think this is stunning as well. Some resin style features here on the armrest with the gear selector in the middle, 2 cup holders. Wireless charging is probably located down here. And thankfully, even though we do have a big 33-inch screen like this, you can see the Cadillac decided to actually hire some interior designers and stylize this piece of the interior, looking very nice. Some metal styling on these different features here, graphic features in combination with this beautiful brownish leather. Overall, a great looking interior and exterior as well. As I said, I do think this is one of the best looking EV SUVs on the market today. The question is, have you seen a lot of lyrics out on the roads? I've seen maybe 2. So I'm not sure how well this is going to sell, but since it is the smaller sibling, it has a lower price point. Hopefully Cadillac will be able to sell some of these so we can appreciate these when we see them roll by out on the streets.